as we welcome in James Ham. James, you're a big movie guy. Did you remember the Jacksons, An American Dream miniseries?
Oh, I don't.
Oh, it was an experience, James.
It was. I didn't know it was 92. I was not 10 years old. And I was watching that, and we were talking about it at school the next day. That's crazy. I didn't know it was that long ago.
It was in that one too.
I was in high school, so when you're in high school, you don't watch a lot of TV. You got too many other things going on. So,
wow,
my high school life.
Yeah, Ham was making moves. Okay,
Ham was about that life, and that wasn't me, James. I was working at KYDS, our little radio station there at El Camino, and just setting the groundwork for our brilliance here every 3 days a week here with you at 3:00. Partner, you want to start? I feel like you came in today. You've got something on your mind. Like I had just, James. I had just we've got some fun. We're a week away from basketball. I found a list on Hoops Hype, like an executive survey about who you'd want to build around, like at the age of under 25. Like, what players would you build around? And Luka is still under 25, and he was still number one. Jason Tatum was number two. And then we started talking. I think the list had Ja at number three. In fact, I could just go back to my notes yesterday. Ja was at number three. Evan Mobley was at number four. Anthony Edwards, Zion, Scotty Barnes at number seven. LaMelo was at number 8. Trae Young, Darius Garland rounded out the top 10. And Kenny came in a little hot. Like I think he did a lot of movement there. First of all, what do you think of that list?
Yeah, I don't love it. I think I saw the list you were talking about. I mean, Darius Garland, number 10. I mean, I know he made the All-Star team last year, but we're talking about the Eastern Conference. That making the All-Star team this year. If he could do it this year, that would be an accomplishment. But I don't know. Like Fox, I would have, like, if I'm choosing between Fox and Garland, I'm choosing Fox. But maybe that's because I've watched De'Aaron Fox like every game he's ever played as a pro.
And look, and I feel the same way. No shade to Garland or nothing like that. But I also understand nationally, like Fox would have no business being on the top 10. Like national, like to the people who don't watch him every day like we do. I might think about putting him there, but accomplishments, winning, and all this other stuff, you couldn't put him there. I understand that. My biggest gripe is a strong word because I didn't have a gripe with it. I don't think these guys should be off the list. I just wouldn't have them that high. I thought Ja at 3 and Evan Mobley at 4 was too high. I would have put Anthony Edwards probably at 3. I'd still put Zion up there in the top 5. And Trae Young at 9, I think he was. I'm moving Trae Young up in that top 5 maybe. And also, Darius Garland, I'm probably switching him out with Cade Cunningham.
Who, by the way, I didn't follow up on this with you earlier. Cade Cunningham was 11.
Okay, so like if I'm making that list, first of all, I don't have Zion Williamson in the top 25.
What?
Like of players under 25. No way. Like, look, you have to actually be able to play the game. You have to actually be able to show up and actually suit up and get in uniform and actually play a game in order for me to put. If I'm going to build a franchise, and see that's where I'm going to build. Like, if you're building a franchise, I'm not building around a guy who has a weight clause and who keeps breaking his foot. I'm just not doing it. There's no way I'm doing that at all. Like, I'm also not, like, if there's a list of 32 and under, I'm not going to go find Greg Oden and put him on that list either. Like, look, like, there's no way I'm putting him on that list. So, especially above guys like Trae Young, even, I think LaMelo Ball, he's a guy that you fully build a franchise around. I don't love personality-wise. I'm not a huge fan of what's going on there. But as far as a ball player, heck yeah. Like, I mean, that's a really, really strong player. Evan Mobley, like, look, John Morant, Evan Mobley, I would also put them in the top 5. They're guys that I'm really high on my list of guys who have come through over the last few years. But that's an elite, like, developing big man, and a big man like we might not have seen before. And then on top of that, John Morant is like one of the most exciting players in the league, and he's already accomplished for a guy his age, and he's one of the funnest players I've seen. So yeah, I'm keeping both of those guys in my top five. I love Scotty Barnes. Yeah, I don't know.
You putting Ja ahead of Trey?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah, because I think there's more substance. I think there's more wins. I think he impacts winning more. That's just me. Like, I think Atlanta.
They went 20-1 without him in the lineup.
Yeah, but you take Atlanta's roster and you take Memphis's roster, and I think most people like what they would typically take what Atlanta has or has had over the last few years over what Memphis has had outside of their star player. That's just me. I mean, and again, yeah, neither one of them play any defense, but the way the speed that Morant plays at and the way he impacts everything, yeah, I don't know.
I ain't gonna go too hard on it because I like John Morant, so I'm not gonna go too hard. But I think I'd go with Trey. Trey has led a team to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
He's done that, and even last year when everything was going bad, he led them to a playoff appearance.
Yeah, I mean, Trae Young is a really, really good player. I mean, and clearly, like Trae Young, we skip over the fact that the Kings didn't just pass on Luka; they passed on Trae Young as well, and they did that because they already had De'Aaron Fox, and so I mean, it made sense why they did it, and Frank Mason. Yeah, it made sense why they did it, but at the same time, if I'm building a team, like, give me John Morant. I mean, that's a motor. That's a driving force. That's a personality. I'm all over that.
I just noticed something humorous that I hadn't noticed before. The list ended at 13.
Come on, man. That's not even.
Remember who that 13 was?
Come on, man. Why would they do that?
It was Tyrese Halliburton.
Come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they went to 13 just to get Tyrese on the list. Who says I got the top 13 guys? They didn't do top 10. They didn't do top 15. They were like, where's Tyrese? 13th. Let's do top 13.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Why would you go? Why would you go top 13? That doesn't make. I mean, that's even bad luck, isn't it?
It's not a knock on Tyrese. That's just really funny.
Tyrese had to fall in that Gardner Minshew category.
Man, you ain't never lie. That's the truth. I'll mention this. I kind of stopped at the top 10 and didn't realize how much further this went. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green was right after that, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They love
that's the one where I will take umbrage with that as far as like not having Fox on the list. And I like SGA, but people love him so much more than De'Aaron Fox for whatever reason.
Where was Jason Tatum on that list?
2.
Oh, okay.
Behind Luka.
Okay. Yep.
Dude, this is crazy. I had to double check. De'Aaron's still under 25. Man, that dude really is kind of disrespected. This is a little goofy. This is a little silly.
Yeah.
Especially when you got like a guy like SGA who is super talented as well, but he hasn't won anything by himself. The year he won, he had Chris Paul next to him, and he played really well. But since he's at the same situation as De'Aaron Fox, they've routinely been terrible.
Yeah.
You got him in the top, whatever.
That's tough. I would like to have him on my team, but I think I would consider Fox over him, just because it's a point guard position. Like, the point guard position has more value, and an elite big man has more value as well. So I mean, that's, again, you can't just fill it up with all point guards and sprinkle in a couple of like versatile bigs like Evan and Scotty Barnes, but I think you kind of have to.
One of the things that kind of sparked this whole thing was Evan Mobley. They had him at 4, and I like Evan Mobley. But I don't. Here was my argument. I don't ever think he's going to be the best player on a championship team. And if I'm starting a franchise and I'm already saying, I need somebody better than this guy, why am I starting a franchise with him?
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can make that statement yet. I think he can be the best player. Yeah, he can be the best player on a great team. He could also kind of plateau in a way like Chris Bosh did, where he can't be the only guy on a team that carries a team like Luka, but he can be like a really, really good number two. I mean, you might be right there, but I still love his potential. I think it's a little bit about personality with him. Like, he is pretty mild mannered. He doesn't have that like super, super alpha that you're always looking for. But like, I mean, I think at a minimum, he's going to be around Cat, like that level, but a Cat who plays defense. So that's kind of where I would put him. But I'm a huge fan. Like, coming into the draft, like, I would have taken him number 2 out after Cade Cunningham without any question.
Yeah. Mobley's cold, and I like him. I know I say stuff like that in question, but no, he's
sound like me talking about Tupac.
Well, no, the voice didn't go up. Hey, well, I didn't know. I like Evan Mobley.
I think Tatum's going to have a monster season. I mean, Tatum's a great ball player. Him having a great year isn't particularly surprising. I think coming off all of the noise of his performance in the finals, I think Tatum is one of those dudes who can get fueled by that. I think the Celtics are right back where they were without the rough start to the season. Like, I think they have a more consistent year than they did last year, and I think by December, if there are questions, and I don't know that there really, really are questions about Jason Tatum as much as that was just a bad performance on the biggest stage. I think people will be talking about Tatum headed into December, January, like, oh no, this dude's taken this dude has gotten even better.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Tatum, it's going to be interesting. Is there a moment where, I mean, they're really, really good, but where that group of players grows together and can get them over the hump? I mean, most of those are drafted players by the Celtics. Can they actually get themselves all the way over the hump and win a championship? I think it's going to be an interesting test. Whether they can do it without going out and getting someone else, swapping one of the pieces out for another dominant player, like what we saw the rumors of Kevin Durant or whatever. Like, can they get there? And I think it's going to be intriguing to see, because not a lot of teams do, put it all together, keep it together, and then like string together a bunch of championships. I guess we could say the Warriors, but outside of that, it doesn't always happen that way.
It's just so weird though for the Celtics. They were the better team for 3 games in 45 minutes. And then they weren't. They were never the best team in that series again. It all ended in that game 4. And I don't know if I don't know that you have to overreact to that. You've got a great team there. I don't know that you have. Kevin Durant, like, yeah, of course, Kevin Durant's a generational player. I don't think you have to overreact to that. You've got a great squad as is. That's how you start the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also, I want to see what Ime Udoka looks like in year 2 as a head coach. I think that's a really big deal that, keep it together. He rode out the storm last year and then, really had the team playing extremely well at the end. So like, what do they look like if they're really good on day 1 as opposed to what they were last year, which was kind of all over the board and, hit and miss. Like, I want to see Ime Udoka as a big time coach in year 2. I think he could be like a big time difference maker for that team.
I got a question for both of you guys when we kind of talk about this list. Is there anybody coming into the league this year that is going to bum rush that top 10 in your opinion? I'll go first. I think Paolo will.
Okay.
I think I'm not going to put him in the top 10, but I think Benedict Mathurin's going to have a really good season. I like Benedict Mathurin a lot. I would say Keegan, but they're not going to give Keegan that kind of respect and love. He can win the Rookie of the Year. They ain't putting him in the top 10. So, but he might get on the top 13. Maybe they extend the list to
Top 14.
17.
Can't take Tyreek out.
Yeah, Tyrese maybe 14. And
The top 19 players under 25. Like, why is it not 25 under 25? I don't know.
You guys
Yeah.
think anybody bum rush the list though?
Palo's a good call. I mean, I think James's guy would have. I was all in on Chet prior to that injury, man. Like Chet had turned me full baby face. Like I was all about Chet Holmgren. I'll go Palo though.
Yeah, I would say
Palo and Keegan before I went Palo and Jabari.
Yeah.
I definitely would go Paolo. I think he'll find his way on that list just because he's going to score a bunch. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's how Tatum initially got started climbing these lists because he's such a good scorer. I think he'll be on that list. Outside of that, I'm not sure. I don't think that there's another player in this year's draft. Even Chet, I still I like him a lot. I like him a lot as a fit in Sacramento. I don't know that he was ever going to be like a player that you built your entire team around. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think all for Jaden though, because he'll be playing with.
Oh yeah, they'll try and show
Cunningham, who's on the list too. Like I think Jaden could wind up on the list.
You guys know who's going to be on the list probably this time next year. Notice what I'm saying. This time next year, 9/16 day, 2023. You know who's going to be on the list? Wembanyama. That's a goal. He hasn't played a game yet. He will be on the list.
He might bump 3 players off the top 13, and they might have to drop it just to a top 10 with him on there. Yeah, as number 1. I mean, did you see the measurements that just came out for him?
Man,
he measured at 7'4" barefoot with an 8-foot wingspan. What in the world?
So, question back of the class.
Mr. Barley.
We're not concerned about his feet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
At least I am. Yeah.
Feet and his knees and his limbs and all of this stuff for months on months on months. Now you got a dude who's bigger than he is coming into the league and everybody's drooling all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, when he gets to the league, I believe he's going to be like 8'3" with like a 12-foot wingspan. I mean, the kid keeps growing. He looks like someone who's going to keep growing. We've never seen a body come into the league like this, and the only thing that's even remotely close is, I would say Giannis, but a much shorter version of Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
The killer with him though is the skill set too. We talk about Chet and everything, and I like Chet just like everybody else. Victor seems so much more skilled and fluid with the basketball than Chet does. And that's a testament to him, not a diss at Chet. That's just like, man, at that size, you're able to handle that way, you're able to shoot that way. It's scary.
I think it's totally scary. Yeah. I mean, Lizzie brought up Yao Ming, and the difference is with Yao. Yao couldn't put the ball on the floor. Yao couldn't shoot a 3-ball. Yao couldn't run the floor. I mean, this kid can do it all. He's just jumbo sized, and he's just 7'4". I mean, it's crazy. So
Yao was a deceitfully really big dude. Not small. Like he was big.
Yeah.
Yeah, the picture of him standing next to Shaq really does put things in perspective. And in my time covering the league, when Taco Fall came through for his pre-draft workout, Taco Fall is one of the biggest human beings on the earth. And then the other one that was tremendously just a gigantic man was Aaron Gray. And I think he came in at 7'2", but 7'2", well over 300 pounds. He looked like Grizzly Adams. When he went through a doorway, he had to duck and move sideways, and that is a tremendously large human being. Unlike Sim Bular, who was 7'6", 7, whatever Sim was, but Sim he's a sweet guy, but I don't think he had it an abdominal muscle. There wasn't he had no core at all.
Isn't he a wrestler?
I don't know why he's.
I think he's a wrestler. Can someone in the chat house confirm, or if he's not a wrestler, he's an enforcer. I believe he is on wrestling television though.
He might be a wrestler, not a wrestler.
Or a wrestler,
like the other version. Yeah, yeah.
Almost played basketball. I think he
What's
played
that?
in Georgetown.
Almost played basketball. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, he almost looks like Taco Fall to me, just thicker. he looks. I can't, man. This kid is 18, man. He's got LeBron level hype.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about this kid for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
That's tiptoeing around LeBron James. Like, I don't know that he's got the chosen one Sports Illustrated cover yet. I'm sure that's coming, but my goodness, man, this kid's 18 years old and is just he's getting love.
Yeah. I can't wait to see him play against the G League Ignite. That's going to be a lot of fun, especially like Scoot Henderson.
Yeah, he's
everything I hear about him is like, holy cow.
Scoot is a problem.
Yeah, he's 6'2", like incredible bounce, incredible athleticism. Just like he's gonna be a player that, I mean, he's not. I don't think there's any way he's gonna get himself in the conversation for number one. But I mean, he's like almost a surefire number two, and everything I hear about him behind the scenes is just one of the most remarkable young men that you're going to find. Mm-hmm. Just like a spectacular person, and I think he's going to be fun to watch. He's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Another one of those game-changing drafts coming up.
The good news is there's going to be good players at 17 when the Kings draft.
I think I heard crickets.
I have them in the 20s. Drafted in the 20s.
I was listening. I think I heard crickets. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see where they draft. I mean, everyone wants to get into the playoffs. Like, you get into playoffs in a franchise-altering draft. Yeah, couldn't have waited one more year. Nope.
Outside of the Kings and De'Aaron and all of the things that we regularly talk about, what NBA question do you want answered the most headed into this season? As you think about all that's happened this off season, what's got you thinking like, man, what's this going to look like? What's this going to mean to the league?
Yeah.
We've had a couple. Kenny brought up, like, what if Zion is back? Like, what if Zion is really back? And I piggybacked that a little bit and said, okay, well, what if Ben Simmons is back? Like, what does that mean for Brooklyn? Obviously, two very different positions of hierarchy on their team, but those were two things. Like, what does Ben Simmons mean for Brooklyn, and how does that shape that out? And Zion being back to Zion for 70 plus games this year, it's going to make it could make the Western Conference look a whole lot different.
No, I agree. I think with Zion, again, my biggest concern is, like, can he stay healthy? But then it goes a step further. Even if he can stay healthy, how do you fit him in? Like, who is he and how is he to that team? Because Brandon Ingram has become just phenomenal without him, and CJ McCollum's a really good player. And then can you play him and Valanciunas together? And like, there is going to be some major questions about just fit and how it all works around him. I think the biggest problem that you have, where we talked about, Marvin Bagley for so long, that one of the biggest downfalls to his injury problems wasn't so much that he was injured. It's that he was injured repeatedly with different things that, like, had him, like, start and stop his development all the time. If he could have just played like 50 games consecutively, he could have grown a ton as a player. He just never got there because he always got hurt after game 20. And I think when it comes to Zion, I don't know that we're so much worried about, like, he's played games in a row and things like that. But I think the biggest problem is the Pelicans have never been able to build around him, like, in the way that you would typically build around a player. So, like, we just watched the Sacramento Kings do everything in their power to build around Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox by putting shooters everywhere, long defenders everywhere. This is what we're doing. We're building around these two players. Well, they haven't built around him like in that way. Like Ingram could be a good partner, but Valanciunas, like that's a lane clogging. Like what? How is that going to work with Zion? I guess you could say a little bit with CJ, but again, like you brought in a bunch of scorers. I'm intrigued to see how that works, and can we get to a point where you look at that team and say, hey, are they better with Zion coming off the bench and with Herb Jones starting because he's a guy who fits better, just like flat out, he fits better with what they've built. And I think that's kind of the downfall to my thoughts on Zion is just, again, like how do you build around a guy that you don't know is going to be there, and then they didn't build around him, and that's difficult.
Yeah. Do you see, when you talk about Ben Simmons, do you envision a world where the Nets can be NBA championship contenders?
Sure. I mean, like any team with Kevin Durant has a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, they do need some good luck. I mean, they need Kyrie to play like 75 games. They need Joe Harris to get healthy, and that's a big ask.
Oh, got him early.
He definitely have potential. What's that?
You're back now. The freeze monster got you.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, they do have some injury issues that they're. I mean, again, like I love the acquisition TJ Warren there, right? So if it does work out, like if he's healthy, but we start banking on how many players who are historically unhealthy, and I think like your top 6 are historically unhealthy, you should probably sort of guess that you're going to have a season where you have injury issues.
We'll come back. We'll talk more questions we're looking forward to having answered here in this upcoming NBA season. We'll also talk your partner over on the Kings Beat, Brendan Nunez. He wrote an interesting article about Chimezie Metu. Want to ask you about that as well as we return here. 1320 Kings insider James Ham with us on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. This always on display on the iPhone update is pretty dope. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but it's pretty dope. I like it.
What's that?
So like on the update of the new iPhone software, your phone doesn't go black. It like fades and then the clock stays up. So you could see like it just always stays on. So you can see like the time and the date, and then if you have a message or a notification or whatever, you could still see it.
I think you can have a photo too, like a backdrop.
Yeah. Like you can, and I think you can change like how, like the depth of the background photo, meaning like because mine's the factory settings or whatever. It's dark. The background is dark, but I can still see Smoothie and Sprout in the picture, but it's dark. But the clock is a little bit brighter. Okay. And apparently you can add like your calendar to it. You can add whatever.
You can add Twitter. Yeah, you can add any widget. Yeah. It's
pretty dope. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but it's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I don't think I know I didn't get the update.
Well, you were smart because they've had to update the update. That's what you always wait for. You got to wait for the update to come out, figure out everything's wrong, and then the 0.1 update to come out, and it already has. So you've got 2 updates to do.
Did not related, but I was thinking about. Did you guys see that clip I posted on Twitter the other day of the young lady in high school dunking the way she was? Oh man, where is it? Class of 2024. Somebody just liked it from the other day. She's like doing reverse dunks, and she's 6'2". Hopefully,
got some hops.
Toby Fournier is a 6'2" forward out of Canada, and she's easily one of the cleanest dunkers I've seen for high school girls hoops. Only in the class of 2024, so she has 2 more years of school before we start seeing her play college ball.
That was easy, too. She was getting the one-handed easy.
Yeah, Loki Trickster, the update is 16.0. So if you see the updates down below on your update page, it says, would you like to upgrade to 16? So you can keep doing the 15 updates, but the 16 is a whole new operating system. Yeah, 16.0.1, David, you're right. Like that's what we're going to be at. I haven't updated yet.
Chimere do got a little bit of a vibe to him.
Who does?
Chimere Monecki.
Oh yeah.
I just saw the picture you retweeted from Cameron.
Yeah, he's smooth.
Yeah, you can go.
Then you got my boy Uncle V.
Oh, go Vivek.
Uncle V randomly in a Giants jersey.
Uncle Vivek.
And he got like the XL, like
bringing the 2000s back
in a collared shirt.
Bring the early 2000s back.
The mid quad jersey on.
Trends out here, man.
Yeah, some guys go with the schmedium shirt. Vivek goes with the 2XL. Yeah.
I'm rewatching The Wire and just watching those, like Idris Elba. Of course, Idris got the dopest sweatsuits on, but they're like double XL. The bottoms of the sweats go all the way down over the top of the shoe. Like, oh
boy, we was killing it.
They used to not even look at sizes.
No. Go to Burlington, I just grabbed some jeans off the rack. They were in the 3X section, little did I know. They were in the size 44 waist section. But I was like, man, just give me these. Got these NBA patch jeans.
That's funny. All right, we're coming back, guys. Back here as we close out this 49ers Friday, as we close out this week, 49ers and Seahawks. You can tune into Game Day Sunday morning. We've got you covered there. We've got 49ers coverage all day headed into that game against the Seattle Seahawks. Our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham, with us to discuss some NBA stuff. One other thing, as we were going over some different questions heading into this upcoming season. What do roster tweaks? Because I think everybody has made assumptions, and you can't go a day without getting a push notification about what this team is going to do or might do or is considering doing. What do roster tweaks, not overhauls, but tweaks, and a coaching change mean for the Los Angeles Lakers?
Man, that's a good question, isn't it? I mean, they went out and signed Dennis Schroeder today. That's kind of one of those rich getting richer type deals, where you're able to go get a starting level point guard for pennies on the dollar. I think we're going to have to wait and see how that all looks, because if Russell Westbrook was willing to take like a different role with this team, I think that they could actually be really, really dangerous. They still don't have enough shooting. They're still aging. And they have a rookie coach, and we can say that doesn't really matter, but, we saw what happened to the Boston Celtics last year to start the season. We saw what happened to Willie Green to start the season last year with the Pelicans. We saw how things fell apart in Portland completely. You can't just say that, a guy's going to step in and instantly be successful as a coach when he's taking over a team that wasn't successful at all last season. So I know LeBron James has a very specific, goal in mind to get back to the playoffs and get back to a championship contender. But that team is, they're old and they're beat up, and like getting Anthony Davis through an entire season is virtually impossible. But LeBron hasn't even been able to stay healthy. So, I would have liked to have seen them fill up the perimeter and get a bunch of guys who can really knock it down. And they just didn't do it again. And so I think that team is poorly constructed, as it sits right now. Even if you do like some of the individual pieces, it kind of feels like the pieces are greater than the whole. And so, yeah, I think that they're going to have some issues, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to make the playoffs because they still have LeBron.
No, there's that. What you mentioned this before, and other people have too, and I'm just curious on what you guys feel. What's the other role that you think, like in a perfect world, Russ would take?
Oh man, I think if you could get him to be a six man and come in and just be destructive off the bench, and there's no shame in that. Like I just think his game kind of equates to that now. Like if you're gonna roll out, a starting lineup with two guys who roughly take 20 shots a game, and neither one of them are named Russell Westbrook. Like, how is a starting lineup with three guys who want to take 20 shots per game gonna work? And I think Anthony Davis is going to be the guy who takes a step back because that's kind of who he is. He's not that guy who's going to be forceful and hoist up a bunch of shots, and that doesn't make that team better. Like, he's their best 3-point shooter, but at the same time, like, that guy, if he's healthy, is excellent, and he needs to be playing a ton of minutes. So could I see a world where Dennis Schroeder and Pat Bev start in a backcourt? Sure. That's not a bad starting backcourt. Veteran leadership, guys that can do the little things, guys that don't have to have a ton of shots. That would be pretty high quality. But you have Russ there, and I think it's just tough. He's kind of a square peg in a round hole at this point with that team specifically.
Cole's losing his mind right now. By the way, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm Patrick Beverly. I get Dennis Schroeder. I guess Dennis Schroeder just has to understand. I guess that's what it boils down to: is you're not a shot taker on this team, and Dennis Schroeder and Russell Westbrook are not in the same class of point guard. So,
oh no, I agree with that. But when you're looking at a guy who, again, last year,
there's already articles about Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. Like, we haven't even gotten to training camp, and you're already telling me what we're doing with Russell Westbrook. Like, it feels like LA is ready. Either they're ready to bail on this, they're ready for it to fail, they're ready for any excuse they can have to move Russell Westbrook somewhere. Like this stuff Sam wrote today, like that, like Sam didn't make this stuff up. Like, he got that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just like, again, when I'm looking at the stats, like it's really difficult to figure out a way to get a big three all shooting that many shots when you also have other players that need shots as well. And, Russ in a diminished, I don't know if you want to say diminished role, or like as a guy who didn't have his best season last year, he still shot almost 16 shots a game. Previous two seasons are around 19 and 20. That's just really tough. It's why I always say, like, Kevin Huerter makes more sense in the starting lineup than Malik Monk. Malik Monk is a guy that can create like instant offense all over the place, where Huerter's more of a guy who plays within the flow of an offense. And Monk will get more shots coming off the bench than Huerter will as a starter. And that's okay. But that's how teams usually function. And I think when you have personalities that are so big, it's really hard to like function in a way where, a typical situation would happen, where you break guys up into different groups of, who's going to be the leading scorer off the bench, who's going to get the most shots off the bench versus, Russ is a third option, fourth option on the offensive side of the ball. And the fact that he can't, if he's in the starting lineup, the fact that he isn't a good floor spacer, that creates problems for everyone else as well.
Have we finally, after it feels like 20 years or so, gotten to the point where we have lived to see the day where the Eastern Conference is better than the Western Conference?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, it's a good question, but how many all-star spots just opened up because guys went to the East this year, and I think that it's going to be an intriguing question, especially if you look at the future, the next like 5 years of the Western Conference, when guys like LeBron, Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, they start to age out, and we're looking at that moment where like Luka is the big name in the Western Conference and will be, but you need to backfill that with some better young talent, and losing Donovan Mitchell to the East, that's a big blow if you're a Western Conference guy. He's one of those guys that could have been a torchbearer going forward. But yeah, it should be intriguing to see how much it happens this year versus the next year or the next year after that. The Warriors can be great for only so long, and eventually, it will come crashing down around them.
If you put together a power rankings list, I feel like the Warriors would be at 1, and then you could potentially have 4 Eastern Conference teams next.
Yeah. And I mean, even putting the Warriors at 1 might not be the biggest, like the smartest move. I mean, you look at, I think the 76ers are going to be tough. Like the Bucks are going to be tough. If they can get healthy
today, I'd put the Warriors at 1. I have questions about the Bucks. Like Chris Middleton, good. Like we're positive Chris Middleton good to go next week or the week after.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't know if he is going to be.
Who they get in free agency too? That I can't remember. They got somebody.
Bucks?
Yeah, it wasn't like a major guy, but they got somebody. They added somebody to the roster. I was like, oh, that's a good look for him. Chatty also happened in a second, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I mean, I remember Celtics got Malcolm Brogdon. They just came out of the NBA Finals. I'd put them up there. I mean, you could make an argument for putting them at 1, but I'll give the champs their respect. If I made a power rankings list right now, I'd have to put the Golden State Warriors at the top. I just don't know where or who would be next from the Western Conference. To what Kenny's point was, is it Phoenix? Is it Memphis? Is it Denver? We know who it's not. It's not. Is it Minnesota? Like, I have no clue.
You didn't even say the Clippers.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They get healthy.
That's right.
That's probably who it is, but nobody can really say that right now because we don't know if they're going to be healthy. We haven't seen. Yeah. But that's probably who it is. To me, that's the second best team in the West is the Clippers. But, I mean, that's just me kind of going on blind faith a little bit because we don't know how much Kawhi and Paul George are going to play. John Wall has looked really good like in the summer, but is that going to translate? So it's probably the Clippers, but maybe we can't put them up there.
Yeah, I mean, they're paper champs, but that's about it. Like, we've got to see it. You've got to see how it functions. And, Isaiah Thomas, bless his heart, he puts up huge performances in the summer too. What, he scored 81 last year during the summer at a Pro-Am. So we haven't seen John Wall in a couple of years.
He played good in Houston, though. Like, he played good. I beat the hell out of the Kings a couple times. Like, he played fine. And then last year was like a silent agreement between the two. Like, you don't have to play. We're going to try and trade you. Didn't happen. So he just went on to the whole team. But he's not looking like John Wall in Washington before the injuries, but he looked cool. Like, he looked okay.
He's played 72 games in 4 years. And he's played, I think it's 113 in 5 years. Like, he hasn't had a full season since the 2016-17 season. That's how long it's been. And so, like, yeah, he scored 40. I mean, he played 40 games for Houston 2 years, not last year, but the year before. But you got to remember, he was coming off an Achilles tear. Like, it's not like he just stopped playing basketball because... for no reason. Last year, for sure, he sat out for no reason, because the Houston Rockets didn't want to play him. But he was coming off an Achilles tear before that. So I don't know.
No, for sure. Yeah. But my whole point was he played. Like, he played. He wasn't injured. Obviously, he wasn't the John Wall before, but he was able to stay healthy and play well. And going to that Clippers team, they're not asking him to be Washington John Wall. They'll be like, be that Houston Rockets John Wall that is just a solid player and, be another help for Kawhi and PG. So,
yeah, it's intriguing. I mean, he's 32. Keep that in mind. Like, I don't know what we're going to see out of John Wall. I hope we see good things out of John Wall. I hope he has a bounce back year, but yeah, we'll have to see.
A Portland like Carmelo could be huge for Los Angeles.
That's what I'm expecting.
That type of John Wall performance, like Carmelo in Portland, like that could be that could be huge for them.
Mm-hmm.
Your partner over at the King's Herald or King's Beat, excuse me. He's at the King's Herald. He's at the King's Pulse too. If it's got Kings in the name, Brendan's probably there.
Brendan's there. Yep.
Brendan's there. Brendan Nunez wrote an article about Chimezie Metu finding a consistent role this season. I know it's something you guys have discussed on the podcast, and it's something that we've discussed here as we've gone over, this roster almost exhaustively here at this point. But Metu is a guy, obviously, that we really like, and I think there's two schools of thought. We've seen Chimezie Metu, and I think we know what he is. He's probably not going to find a role on this team. But then there are some people who think, we've seen Chimezie Metu, but I don't think we really do know who he is. Where do you fall in line with this? And to Brendan's article, can Chimezie find a place in this rotation?
Yeah, I think he's in a gigantic uphill battle. And I'll even say I think he's in a battle like overall, like to make the team. And he has a guaranteed deal, which pays him, I think it's 1.8, 1.9 million, something like, maybe it's 2 million. But there's a lot of depth at his position. And if you look at some of the other guys he's going to be up against and competing for sort of, the role here or even a roster spot with, KZ Akpala, Chima Moneki, both of those guys can play the 3 and the 4. They're versatile enough to play both positions. So that's actually going to matter on this team, especially if you walk into a season knowing that, Kevin Huerter is going to play a bunch of 3 and that will free Harrison Barnes to play up some 4. I don't know what the depth is going to look like at that position at all, but I do know that Rashawn Holmes is going to play this season, and he's not going to play 13 minutes a night, which is what's left over after Domantas Sabonis is done playing 35 minutes a night. So he's going to steal some minutes at the 4. I know that Keegan Murray is going to play a ton, and they're going to do a lot of good work with Keegan Murray in his rookie season. I would be shocked if he didn't play 26 to 28 minutes a night in his rookie season, and even at the end of the year, if that's closer to 30. You still got Trey Lyles, who is a solid veteran and doesn't make a bunch of mistakes, who you can actually run the ball through. He's a decent passer. He's a good shooter, and he's a big body. So I think some nights it will be a matchup issue, like who you're playing against, and do you need a super athlete like Chimezie is? Other nights it'll be, you're going up against Zion and Valanciunas, and you need somebody who can stand in the post and take a shot to the chin. And so you're going to go to guys, like Trey Lyles and maybe even Alex Len. So to kind of dwindle it down, is there a spot for him? And are you wiser rolling the dice on a 23-year-old KZ Akpala who, again, basically 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan and can defend 4 positions? That's a more versatile player. We don't know what he is as an offensive player, but I don't think we really truly know what Chimezie is as an offensive player either. He's a guy who likes to shoot. We know that, but that doesn't equate to the ball, going in the hole. And, there's a lot of questions there.
Do you think that, because you mentioned this the other day, do you think Metu is one of those guys that Mike Brown kept around for familiarity? He kind of understands what he's asking for. And, not saying that's the only reason he was going to cut him anyway, but, that's one reason that he's stuck around is because he's familiar with how Coach Brown likes to coach, his philosophies and things of that nature.
No, I mean, I think there's a little bit of that. I also think that there's a little bit that the Kings have invested 2 years in Chimezie, and he's a guy who does do the work. He's a really, really hard worker. He's a good kid. He's really, really bright. And so he's not a bad guy to have around. And, when you walk into a season, there's always this issue that you have to guarantee a contract right before the start of free agency on a player like this, which is what they had to do. They had to make a decision on Chimezie Metu. And then once you make that decision, you don't know how your summer's going to go. You don't know if you're going to get, a guy like Kevin Huerter or a guy like Malik Monk or, or even, some of the other, like the Kaziak Paulos and the Chima Monekis. Like, you're going a different route at some point, and you have to be safe in the beginning of free agency or before the clock starts on free agency, which is, partially why I think that they picked up his contract, because it was cheap. Him and Trey Lyles both, if you can get two guys that basically shared the starting power forward position the last 25 games of the season, and you walk out of there like under $5 million combined, like $4.6 million, that's pretty good budgeting, and you can move forward with that.
Knowing Chimezi's facing this uphill battle, let's go with an extreme case scenario and say he doesn't in fact make the roster. Did the Kings miss the boat with Chimezi, or he kind of just is who he is and he doesn't fit here with this squad right now?
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't make the team, I think it's because you might have better defensive options. You might have guys that fit what you're doing long term better, or you just have to look at it this way too. Like, they really wanted to bring over Sasha Vezenkov, and that's a guy that would have played that position as well. Like, how committed are they to that position behind Keegan Murray? Like, that Keegan Murray's there, but behind him, how committed are they? And I'll keep saying this. Like, look, Harrison Barnes is going to play a lot at the 4, and Rashawn Holmes is going to play. He's going to play minutes at the 4. He's going to play. Maybe you can say Sabonis will play minutes at the 4, and Rashawn Holmes will play minutes at the 5. But they're going to play together for maybe 5 to 10 minutes a game while you're figuring things out. And like, there's just not that much playing time at that position. So do you need to start looking at other positions and at prospects that maybe you can keep in your system for a couple of years and develop into something different?
I don't want to do that to Metu. Dang, my boy. That's my boy Metu. But
I'm not saying he's gone. I'm not saying that. Yeah.
I know. But I see the same things you see, James. I see the same things. And he's going to have to show a different wrinkle to his game this training camp to survive it. Or he's going to have to be a lights out scorer, like lights out. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's my boy. Shout out Freeport. But the uphill battle is the truth.
Here, and I'll explain just really quickly what you just said. Like, who should he be coming in? Like, if he brings a new wrinkle, it's not that he can take you off the dribble and do a spin move and dunk and look like Amari Stoudemire, because that's not who he is either.
That'd be impressive.
Like, the new wrinkle is that he shoots 37% from 3, and he's a knockdown shooter to go with his ability to cut and play above the rim. That's a new wrinkle. And if he comes in with the mindset that I'm going to score, that's a good way to find yourself in the unemployment line, because this team has scorers. Like, his job is going to be to be a role player and to do the dirty work and to play defense, and that's how he's going to make this team. Hit your open shots, play defense, and then be a sneaky good back cutter. And I think he could actually, be a player on this team. But, who does he think he is, and how does he come in? And that's always a question mark.
Yeah. There's a lot of question marks, man. There's a lot of questions, hearing this talk about defense and evaluating guys defensively. Like, how much, like, how does, are we, is this team jumping in the deep end with Mike Brown? Is Mike Brown walking everyone through the shallow side with how he wants to implement things moving forward? We could talk more about that next week as we wrap up here for today. Make sure that you subscribe to the Kings Beat, thekingsbeat.com. Become a premium subscriber over at the Kings Beat. Subscribe to the Kings Beat podcast, the Kings Beat YouTube channel. Buy some Kings Beat merchandise.
Yeah.
Just support our man James Ham, Sean Cunningham, and Brendan Nunez over there at the Kings Beat. If you missed